Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, the Hormone Whisperer. Welcome to today's Wellness Way Quick Tip. And with me today is the wonderful, the magnificent Dr. Alex Fenley from our Montana office. That way, good morning, Dr. Alex.
Good morning, everyone.
So we have a great topic for you today. It's going to be kind of an interesting topic because it's a very unknown topic that way. And today we're going to talk about mold. And we defined it because, for example, with our even personal experience, we defined it the silent destroyer. So what is it? Okay, so what is really mold? Okay, it's really a fungus. And what it does, and the reason why it's silent, because we're going to start this and we're going to talk about, for example, like your personal history. But our first tip on here is really simple. You know, the silent destroyer, if you find mold, it's too late. Okay, that's a big thing, because as mold comes about and you can see it, guess what? It's already been circulating. Okay, mold is basically a fungus. See, a lot of people don't realize that, for example, penicillin's a fungus. Okay, and what it does, the spores can now do what? They can actually release, and they can spread throughout a house. They can spread throughout the environment. They're inside, they're outside. And what it does, for example, is it gets into our body and before we can even see it, okay? And then what ends up happening is it starts to affect our body. And then guess what? Molds do a wonderful job of growing in warm, fluid-based environments. Well, Dr. Alex, what's one of the best warm, fluid-based environments we have?
A pillow.
A pillow, okay? We're going to talk about that too. She's going to talk about that because that's her experience. It's quite crazy. That's why we have her on today, because not only is she an amazing doctor that actually deals with this clinically, but something came up on her, okay? And we're going to cover that greatly in one of our quick tips. So let's just understand, mold itself, for example, is very common. You can't get away from it. That's the key. So it's about actually reducing your mold exposure, because, you know, if we live like in the environment that we do, we're a little more lucky, because your cold, dry environments, we don't have as much mold. So the cool thing is, you start to live down south, guess what happens? Man, you know, we got docs from here from all over the country this weekend, and what ends up happening is they live in the south, where Dr. Ryan talked about the humidity can be 96 degrees, and actually you can have a nice, you know, chillier day, but the amount of humidity there that grows is just crazy. Yeah. So, Doc, anything to add on this good morning?
No, I mean, for me, it was not a matter of finding the mold. You know, in some cases with patients, you can test them, and the testing is really the easy part. Any Wellness Way doctor across the country can test you. In our situation, my husband and I, the hardest part was finding the source of it. You know, for us, it was, is it in our house? Is it in our car? Is it at your workplace? You know, is it multiple sources? If it's at home, is it in your bathroom? That's right. Is it in your crawl space? Is it sitting right under your face and you don't even know it? So that's often the hardest part for patients too, is once we've determined that they have a mold issue, it's the hard part is on the patient figuring out where the source is coming from. Yeah, and the one thing is what people do, and this is what happens in the medical profession today, they never really suspect it, because here's what happens, is mold, for example, does one thing. It creates an immune response, it creates inflammation. Well, there's so many things that create inflammation that, guess what? They can't look at somebody coming in with a symptom and go, well, this is mold exposure. Because the symptom can mimic so many things. That's why I call across
this.
The board.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you can come at somebody with back pain and go, and even look and go, okay, your inflammation, you know, could be coming from your spine, could adjust them. Next thing you know, the inflammation is actually mold related that way. So that's why it's so silent. There's no correlation between what's going on. Well,
and there's some people that can be in the same environment. You know, my husband and I have a whole list of symptoms, and he has
zero.
None. Yep. And we have 3 dogs. 1 dog is having seizures, and 2 dogs are not affected.
Yes. So all creatures are affected, because mold, for example, doesn't belong growing in our body that way. Which comes up to number 2. There's multiple forms. Now, it's kind of interesting. Most people know the story about Dr. Fleming. He was a scientist that actually ended up leaving he was doing some experimentation, and he left some things out within his petri dish. Actually, it's his sink, to tell you the truth. And he showed up over the weekend, and actually mold actually grew, and that's how they found about penicillin. So penicillin itself is a mold, okay? It's a fungus that grows that can actually kill other things that way. The bad part is, for example, it will grow and multiply in warm, liquid, fluid-based areas that way. The body itself is actually a great, you know, it's a great petri dish. Actually, it's funny. One of the coolest lectures I ever went to, and they weren't a natural doc at all, but I went to a lecture one time by a PhD immunologist, and he said, we're nothing more than a petri dish. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool, because we have more bacteria in on us than we have human cells. Well, The bad part is this: we have all the good bacteria that are supposed to live there, but some of the bad ones could come there too.
Yep.
And that's what happens. So there's so many forms of mold. You know, there's black mold, there's actually penicillin. There's such an array that can grow in different areas that way. That's what I tell people. If you see it in your house, oh my goodness, you see it in your house, clean it as quickly as possible that way. It's not that difficult to get rid of within the environment, for example, of your home. You know, obviously it's kind of interesting. Dr. Ryan came up here and he comes to my house and we have a big basement. And he's like, how many people have basements around here? See, because to the south, a basement's kind of, you know, abnormal that way. Up here, a basement's, you know, pretty common. The bad part about a basement that way is as a very good trap for mold.
Yep. Yep.
Because liquid, now what's Montana like for basements?
Dry. Well, crawl spaces.
Okay, crawl spaces. Oh, which is even worse because ventilation comes there. That's one thing that happens is air circulation is actually quite intense about if you're going to develop mold in house. Now the thing is, people say, I know we're going to get some comments in there, Fancy Nancy. Morning, Fancy Nancy Gruzy. How you doing? Good. The one thing about it happens is a lot of people say, Doc, you know, what should we do to get our house tested? I'm totally about getting your house tested. But Dr. Alex and I came up with a wonderful aspect of this. Here we go. Here's quick tip number 3. Test the body first. It's the greatest alarm system. Now, for example, is what you can see, for example, these are the multiple tests that should be done. We'll post our Wellness Way you know, test list for people that way. But one of the biggest things that we can realize, like we talked about, you know, mold can exist. Mold could actually be in this room here right now. Actually, the funny part is, Doc, you can't avoid mold. You really can't. If I actually poured, you know, we have a, you know, beautiful non-toxic rug down here, but if we poured a little liquid on there and didn't dry it up, you could develop mold.
Yeah.
Okay? So the idea is it can grow basically anywhere. But the one thing is this, though, it can't hide from your body. The immediately time that mold comes into their body and those spores start to actually grow within there and spread, our immune system goes, hey, guess what? It doesn't belong here. Now, it's kind of neat because what ends up happening is you can actually run those labs. But see, the labs, for example, are not really, for example, a test for mold. See, a lot of people are looking for house testing. They go, they're going to post here. Durham, you want to get your house tested. Let me give you a quick story before we continue. So I had a patient that came in, no joke. This young lady, for example, she suffered from vaginosis so bad it was hard for her to walk. Let me understand this. And they're wrong. In the fight bar is, she was actually in the medical profession. And so she tried every antibiotic. It worked for a little bit. It'd come back, okay? So we end up running some of the labs on her, found out that her immune system, actually her C4A. Guys, one test that can change your life. We're going to talk about Dr. Alex's test. One test that can actually change your life is C4A. C4A isn't even a mold test, but it actually is very, very common to have with mold because your immune system says, hey, there's a bugger here, it doesn't belong here. So we tested that levels, came back mold extremely high. Well, so what this young lady did is her and her husband had their house tested. First place they tested was where? Basement.
Yep.
What'd they find?
Nothing.
Nothing. Went to the first floor, guess what happened? Nothing. All of a sudden, the whole home testing, second floor came out very high. They went around room to room, they walked into her walk-in closet. They pushed on the wall and the wall crumbled. The wall crumbled, okay? And I actually know, for example, the young lady's going to watch this because she knew that we were doing mold today, but her wall crumbled and you could see the brick on the outside from all the mold that's beating away. So not only the fact that did she get exposure, but here's what happens. Mold and those spores will attach to your clothing. They'll attach to everything you have. That's why mold can be so devastating because it's kind of like, you know, if you think about it this way, yeah, it's like lice. It attaches to you and it just has a party at your house, okay? And so what ends up happening is, so they cleared it all out, and as we started to actually reverse that process, help her body rid that mold, all of her symptoms, including vaginosis, actually went away. And the medical profession was so surprised. I'm like, why are you surprised when you have a party in your house that doesn't belong there and you get rid of it that way, okay? And that's one thing that's kind of interesting about all labs that way. If you really think about like how we basically mostly time find mold, no patient ever comes to us and says, I think we have mold. No, what ends up happening, we do a battery of tests and go, something's triggering your immune system. Yep. Now, here's the cool part. Dr. Sampson and Alex, like I said, they practice in Montana. So we were actually, you know, all of us, including me, her husband, her, everybody, Fancy Nancy, Brandon, everybody in a Wellness Way, we get tested on a regular basis. Well, there was a hormone test because she's like, Doc, can you look at my hormone test? Sure. And there was one hormone that, for example, that was actually, I just couldn't get it back normal. I'm like, I said, Doc, I said, remember this? I was like, there's something hanging there. There's somebody having a party in your house uninvited.
Yep.
So we ran her lab and her C4A. Do you remember what the lab was? Because actually I forgot to put it on our slides. What was
my C4A was 18,000.
18,000. You don't want it to be above 2,000. Actually, you don't want to be above 1,000, but the range allows 2,000 that way. So we started to search. You checked your house, and you got to tell a story, and I'll put the slide on when you got it.
Yeah, that was last January of 2017 when I got my C4A tested because we just could not get my hormones regulated. And it took us up until, New Year's weekend was when we found the source. And it was multiple sources in our home, and it was my pillow. And my husband's pillow. We had water pillows.
Think about that.
Yep. I have searched our house high and low. We had multiple companies come in, test our office, test our cars, test our house. The only area that they found just a slight abnormality in the air quality and spores was in our master bedroom. We re-caulked and sealed our entire big tile shower.
Yep.
Still having issues, so I was ready to take a knife to our very expensive mattress.
And on top of it, your house isn't that old.
No, 3 years old. We just built it.
You built house 3 years old.
Yep. And that's the thing, it can happen in an old house or a new house. For us, it wasn't the house itself, it was my pillow.
The pillow. Now, the first question, all of a sudden, I literally get a text.
I changed my sheets, I promise.
Yes. Yeah, she does share. Well, actually, she took off, and this was underneath. Now, actually, this is actually, being the chiropractors that way, we like certain pillows that way because we want to be able to have the best, aspect for our neck to lay there. And all of a sudden, she literally texted me and said, Doc, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? She goes, I found the mold. And all of a sudden, she sends me a picture. I'm like, hold the phone. That's your pillow. Okay? Now, ladies, think about this. Honestly, my wife is guilty of this. How many times, ladies, do you guys actually take a shower at 8 o'clock at night, you have a wet hair, and you go to bed? So what happens? You create that warm, wet environment, put on that pillow that way, and guess what happens? It's a breeding ground for bacteria that don't belong there, okay? Women are notorious for that. My wife does it. I personally don't have that problem. Okay, so I'm lucky. My pillow. I actually saw her picture. I'm like, hold the phone. I ran into my bedroom and stuff like that. I looked at my pillow. It's good. Okay, I looked at my wife's pillow. It was good too that way. Because once again, that can build up that way. So it's something as simple. Now you're talking a woman that eats perfectly. You're talking a woman that avoids her food allergies. You're talking a woman that does everything right health-wise that we do with Wellness Way that way. And still, once again, something wasn't right. Hormone levels.
Could you imagine if we didn't live the lifestyle that we live, though?
Oh, run with that, Doc. Run on that one a little bit.
My husband and I, we lead a lifestyle healthier than I would say 97% of the population.
99.9.
99.9% of the population. If I didn't lead this healthy lifestyle, I can't even imagine where I would be.
Yep.
I think that's what was saving me from even more detriment.
Yeah, because what happened is that mold was actually causing inflammation to run in general what was going on with their lab that way. There was just, the hormones are like a fuel tank. And what ended up happening was, it was just running low, and it was running low. And yes, you can naturally replace it and stuff like that, but we got to find out why. And that we back off, and it would just stay low that way. I'm like, there's something, and the immune system is one of the most common things that trigger and can drain hormone levels that way. And then finally, but we don't stop. That's what she does as a practitioner. That's what our Wellness Way offices do as a practitioner. For example, it's like Dr. Greg actually hit it out of the park with his cholesterol talk the other day when he's like, all of a sudden you'll see people changing cardiovascular, but then something will hang on, and you dig even a little bit deeper and you find out something that's going on. And this is common, guys. Think about how many ladies out there, and let's say you do have great hair like Dr. Sampson, her husband, who's got the long,
it's longer than mine.
It's longer. He's got the Jesus type hair. It's looking good. Wait, actually, let's do this on our quick. Dr. Sampson, coming up here. Come on up here, man. Just come say hi to everybody. Dr. Sampson, he doesn't have a mic, but let's bring him up here next to his wife and stuff like that. They're wonderful practitioners from our Montana Flathead Valley area. And so if you guys get a chance out there, come out there. Come stand up next to your beautiful bride. And actually, he probably won't pull his ponytail out and give us his man bun, okay? But the cool thing about Dr. Sampson that way, once again, he tore apart the house. He was going through ventilation. I'd call him and say, Doc, what you doing? He's like, trying to find out where our mold is. Remember that? And it's like, it was devastating. So you're taking two people that live a wonderful lifestyle like our doctors do that way, and actually had a toxic pillow, okay? And once again, the air quality in almost every room, for example, was normal. So the idea is this, but one of the most important areas where you spend about 8 hours of her life, so she was getting toxic from just getting good sleep. She was getting toxic from a great cervical pill that actually wouldn't hurt her spine. The bad part is, for example, it actually built a toxin on there that was devastating her body, and her hormone level, for example, was devastated by something so simple of almost like throwing a pebble in your shoe and you couldn't get it out. So, once again, it's a wonderful story, but it's a devastating story. It's a wonderful story because, you know, it's kind of a unique process that way, but unique that, for example, it's the first time that we ever found a moldy pill, but it's not uncommon that women are going to bed with wet hair. Okay, Samson could actually, with his long, beautiful locks, could actually suffer from the same thing. Okay, but the cool thing is this: these guys have done it, and now they're changing it, and I'm excited to see as their labs continue to change.
Well, I remember when we got my C4A level back, he comes busting into my adjusting room and he's like, "Did you see your C4A level? Do you know how many people you're going to be able to help because of this?" Remember that?
Yep.
Yes. Well, see, one of the greatest things, if you think of it this way, is their mold exposure will get them to think a little different about it. Just like, for example, when Christy, when we first met, and most people know our story, is when looking going, man, she can't have a baby. I'm like, nah, it doesn't make sense. There's something they're all missing. And of course, once again, the story has now, we have 4 beautiful daughters. Sometimes one of your greatest doctors are people that have suffered from something and experienced it, because nobody can take their experience away. So as we do our quick tips and we invited these wonderful docs that, for example, have gone through it, no one's going to change their mind on this. Why? Because she suffered through it. You know, and we just found it. It wasn't like we found this a year ago. We just found it a couple weeks ago that way. And now we're going to work to actually clear her body out. Now, obviously getting rid of the exposure is easy. Throw out the damn pillow, okay? But on top of it, I've never told a woman, so Dr. Alex's rough, tough experience actually teaches me now to tell women, be careful going to bed with a wet head, because it can lead to this. So, final thoughts there, Dr. Alex.
No.
Wow, that was weird. No. Okay. A woman of few words. Okay. But the idea is this: a great experience. And so once again, guys, mold is a very devastating thing. And one thing that we got to know is this, and I've actually learned this from Dr. Ryan Miller. Okay. 25% of the population today has a genetic response that's very inflammatory to mold. That's why Samson can live in the same house, sleep right next to the woman that way, and don't actually even react to it that way. But the idea is this: with that constant exposure, if you are susceptible to inflammatory responses, and that's why you saw in one of the tests, you can actually measure the gene response, because that's why your body responds, and therefore, once again, you're going to be more sensitive to mold than other people. That's why even the one tone I told you about the woman that actually had vaginosis that way, what happened is this: her husband was in the same room, but he didn't go through the same symptomatology that she did, even though he was being exposed every day. So, I got a new term. Hello, my name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, the Hormone Whisperer. I'm with Dr. Alex Fenley, the Mold Whisperer. We want to thank you so much for watching us today. We appreciate you guys always tuning in. Please do me a favor. We want to say, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people on. Hello, everybody. All of you guys that, please do me a favor right now. If you could please like and share this. Share Dr. Alex's experience that way. Once again, because it's going to have a possibility to change people's life. Get your labs done. That's the key to the wellness way. Get your labs done, because once again, one thing that I'm very proud about, nobody tests like us and looks at it, and nobody digs deep into the aspect to find out what was wrong. When she had that hormone, it just wasn't there. It bothered me. I'm like, we're gonna find it. There's something going on that way. And when we found it, we found it by the lab, but then Samson and Alex did a ton of investigation, and this is where they found it. So guys, once again, thank you so much for actually following our quick tips. Keep digging. Go to our Facebook page, like it, share it. Go to our Wellness Way website, thewellnesswayclinics.com. You can see all of our clinics across the country. We appreciate you guys always watching. Have a beautiful Saturday morning, and we will see you next week.